In a quiet suburban neighborhood, tensions had been brewing within the Homeowners Association, HOA, for months. Disputes over property lines, noise complaints, and landscaping issues had escalated, leading to a series of heated meetings. Little did I know things were about to take a bizarre turn. As the chief of police, I had seen my fair share of unusual incidents, but nothing could prepare me for what happened one fateful evening. I received a call from a neighbor, frantic and whispering about officers who were going door to door, claiming they were there to enforce HOA rules. Curious and slightly amused, I decided to investigate. Arriving at the scene, I was met with a shocking sight. Two individuals in makeshift police uniforms were attempting to issue warnings for minor infractions like a garden gnome that was out of place. My initial thought was that this had to be a joke. But as I approached, the so-called officers turned their attention to me, demanding to see my identification and accusing me of being in violation of several HOA regulations. I couldn't help but laugh. "Do you know who I am?" I asked, pulling out my badge. The faux officers paled, realizing they had just tried to arrest the chief of police. The situation quickly escalated as I called for backup, and we discovered that these imposters were actually disgruntled HOA members taking matters into their own hands. After a brief interrogation, it became clear that their misguided attempt at enforcing HOA rules stemmed from frustration with the board's decisions. They believed that if they acted as officers, they could impose their version of order. In the end, I arranged a meeting with the HOA to address the issues directly, emphasizing the importance of communication and cooperation. The incident served as a reminder of the thin line between authority and absurdity, and how quickly frustration can lead to farcical situations. As for the faux officers, they learned that taking the law into your own hands, especially when you're dealing with the chief of police, is never a good idea. Chief Rajveer Singh was the pride of his city. He wasn't just the chief of police. His name was synonymous with law and integrity. He was so well known that people also called him the Rock, solid, unshakable, and immovable. Rajveer's residence was surrounded by a seemingly pleasant HOA, Homeowners Association, a place where civic peace and petty rules played out a separate game. Normally, Rajveer stayed clear of these minor disputes. But this time he had a lingering issue with the HOA president. Mr. Verma, an extremely stubborn man who believed he was above all rules, was envious of Rajveer's respect and constantly tried to bind him with HOA regulations, even though he was the police chief. When the phone rang one evening, as Rajveer was relaxing in his study, his personal mobile rang. The number was unknown. "Hello?" Rajveer asked in his grave voice. A rapid, stammering voice came from the other end. Chief, we received an emergency call. There's a report of illegal weapon possession and HOA violation at your house. We have an arrest warrant." Rajveer paused for a moment. A faint smile touched his lips. "Who made this call?" he inquired. "Sir, we are from the HOA security team. We have two special officers named Ramesh and Suresh on site. They have a copy of the arrest warrant personally issued by Mr. Verma. We are here to arrest you immediately." Rajveer immediately understood. This was Verma pushing his luck too far. Verma had likely created a fake warrant, which he handed over to his chosen men, who likely knew zero about actual police training. Those fake officers Rajveer hung up without saying anything more and looked at his service revolver. He wasn't in his police uniform but in civilian clothes. He sent a discreet message to his deputy chief. "Imran, Operation HOA Farce is active. Stand by." Rajveer slowly walked outside, where two men, who called themselves officers, stood near his open SUV. Their uniforms looked like they were sourced from a costume store. "Police Chief Rajveer Singh?" one asked, puffing out his chest. Rajveer smiled and replied, "Yes, that's me." "And who might you be?" "We are from the HOA Special Enforcement Wing, and you have no right to resist," the other declared, pulling out a toy-like pistol. Rajveer slowly raised his hands as if he were scared. All right, arrest me. But tell me one thing, which magistrate signed this arrest warrant?" That was signed by Mr. Verma. "He has the authority," Ramesh answered foolishly. Rajveer took 2 steps back from the car, and suddenly his entire body language changed. His voice took on the authority that made even the city's toughest criminals tremble. Authority? Rajveer's voice now boomed. Listen to me, Mr. Ramesh and Mr. Suresh. You two are impersonating a police officer, which is a felony. His eyes flashed. And attempting illegal detention? That could be considered kidnapping if your uniform wasn't so fake. The truth comes out. Rajveer slowly pulled out his official police ID card from his pocket and tossed it towards them. I am Chief of Police Rajveer Singh. This joke of yours is over. Ramesh and Suresh instantly turned pale. The moment they saw the real ID card and Rajveer's imposing figure, they knew which personality they were standing in front of. Just then, Deputy Chief Imran and a full police squad arrived. Their sirens caused an uproar throughout the entire HOA. Imran approached and pulled out a pair of handcuffs, but he didn't put them on Ramesh and Suresh. Instead, he placed them on Mr. Verma, whom he had caught sneaking out of his house while watching the scene unfold. Verma's world had just crumbled. Mr. Verma, Imran said calmly, you are under arrest for obstruction of justice, falsification of documents, and conspiracy to commit false arrest. And these two security guards of yours will be joining you. Rajveer calmly applied the handcuffs to Ramesh and Suresh for impersonation. The final scene Rajveer caught. Verma as he tried to run away and whispered into his ear. Verma, you thought you could defeat a chief of police by hiding behind the rule book? Perhaps you forgot that I am the one who writes the rules, and when I get angry, the rules become mine. Rajveer sat back in his office, looking at the bogus warrant. It only had Mr. Verma's name on it. That night, news spread throughout the city that the HOA president was arrested after trying to arrest the police chief. Rajveer leaned back in his chair, thinking, kids play games. But when the real player steps onto the field, the game is over. It all started on a quiet Saturday morning. The kind of morning when the world feels still. Coffee brewing, the smell of rain hanging in the air, and the only sound outside was the rustle of leaves in my front yard. I live in a small gated community just outside of Cedar Valley. Peaceful, nice people for the most part, except for the Homeowners Association, the infamous HOA. If you've ever dealt with one, you know what I mean. The HOA board here acts like they're running the country. Petty fines, useless rules, and constant harassment. I've ignored most of it. I pay my dues, keep my yard clean, and mind my own business. But apparently that wasn't enough. The incident around 9:30 a.m., a black SUV pulled into my driveway. Two men stepped out, both wearing dark uniforms and carrying holstered weapons. Their jackets had police printed in bold white letters. One of them, a tall man with a trimmed beard, shouted, "Sir, step outside. You're under arrest for non-compliance with community regulations." I froze for a moment, half confused, half amused. Community regulations? I asked. Since when does the HOA issue arrest warrants? The bearded man didn't flinch. Step out of the house now. We have an order from the HOA board and local enforcement authorization. Now, I've been in law enforcement for over 22 years. I've dealt with every type of officer, from rookies to federal agents, and I could tell instantly. These two weren't real. Their gear was mismatched, the patches were fake, and their radio chatter was nonsense. So I decided to play along. The trap eye slowly stepped outside with my hands raised. "All right, gentlemen," I said calmly. "Mind if I see that warrant?" The bearded one handed me a piece of paper, and not even an official document. It was HOA letterhead with some nonsense about community compliance violation and a signature that looked like it was written by a 5-year-old. That's when I smiled. "Interesting," I said. "You know what's funny?" They looked at each other. "You're standing on private property, impersonating officers, and attempting an unlawful arrest of the chief of police." The taller man blinked, confused. "You're what?" I pulled out my badge, flipped it open, and stepped closer. "Chief Daniel Mason, Cedar Valley Police Department. You two just made the biggest mistake of your lives." The tables turned instantly, their fake confidence shattered. One of them started stammering. "Look, we were just told." I cut him off. "Get on your knees. Hands behind your head." Within seconds, I called in my department. Real patrol cars pulled up in minutes. Blue and red lights filled the street. My neighbors came out. watching the scene unfold like a live TV drama. The two fake officers were cuffed, disarmed, and loaded into the back of real police cruisers. But the story didn't end there. The investigation after interrogation. We found out that the HOA president, a man named Greg Simmons, had hired these two wannabe officers. He wanted to teach me a lesson after I ignored his repeated yard violation notices. Apparently, Greg didn't like that I parked my police SUV on my own driveway, so he paid two security guards to impersonate cops and arrest me, hoping to scare me into compliance. Well, that plan backfired spectacularly. The fallout Greg Simmons was arrest. The fallout Greg Simmons was arrest.